Good morning, folks. So the behind-the-scenes live stream about to fire up live here. Appreciate you being with us this morning.
Matters most to you in West Michigan. Join the conversation now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barclay on Wood Radio.
Yep, good morning, folks. Another beautiful start to the day. Waking you up in West Michigan and beyond. The sun is shining. It is gorgeous. High atop downtown Grand Rapids as Art Prize is underway here in fall. It's the first day, right? Fall is one of my favorite seasons. And boy, it feels like it, doesn't it? Yeah, I hate to see summer go, but I really do like the crispness in the air. Love the trips to grab some cider. Did that yesterday with the family, some pumpkins and all that.
News, weather, and traffic. Stories of the day. We're talking about what matters most in West Michigan and beyond. This is the Big Three. Now today's Big Three.
Yeah, the stories that matter most. You'll be talking about these around the water cooler, the dinner table, at the cider mill, possibly. Picking up your pumpkins, raking leaves. Oh, no, I don't even want to think about that part. Yeah, these are those stories powered by Heartland Home Mortgage. Dave Galloway and the team looking for creative solutions to help you put more money back in your pocket, especially now as things are continuing to be challenging. We'll talk more about that on the way this morning, but you can give him a call at 616-974-9105 or go online to hhmlending.com and make sure when you do, you thank them. Thank you for supporting this program.
Number one.
The historic streak of falling U.S. gas prices is over. It's only a historic falling streak because Biden was emptying out our strategic reserves. He continues to try and do that. By the way, the prices look like they're going to maybe go up a little bit and then level out. And then I would imagine after the election is over and he just completely tapers off the selling of the strategic reserves to China, of all places. I would imagine that those prices are going to jump back up again. Now, I'm not a gas price expert. I just see the market, and we've seen these things happen time and time again. Prices at the pump up to $3.89, I think, is what I paid yesterday. Not fun at all. That's basically $4 a gallon. I thought they would try and keep it as low as they could to the election, but not successful thus far.
Number two.
New York Attorney General Letitia James filing a lawsuit Wednesday, a civil lawsuit, that is, against President Trump. 3 of his adult children and the Trump organization. She alleges they were involved in an expansive fraud lasting over a decade. When she tried to explain this all, it kind of fell flat. It was just some forms and some paperwork and saying things were worth more than they weren't, and nobody was hurt in the matter, but it does seem that it's another attack again, just like the Russia hoax. Will it ensnare the Teflon Don, or will he just brush it off as always? Trump calls it nothing more than a witch hunt. Federal Reserve announcing yesterday raising the interest rates again. Fed announcing a third consecutive 75 basis point rate hike, which will make everything more expensive that you buy on credit, including homes. The housing market is going to get interesting. Decision marks the Fed's toughest policy move, they say, since the 1980s to fight inflation. Even CNN says it will likely cause economic pain for millions, American businesses as well as households, by pushing up cost of borrowing for things like home, cars, and credit cards. Fed Reserve Chief Jerome Powell yesterday, in between snoozes. I don't know. These guys are so boring, but it's such an important matter. I got to play a little bit of what he had to say. And it's like, these experts, we just remember supposed to trust the experts. But you and I, if you have a degree in common sense or a degree of common sense, right? You've got all the knowledge you need to know where things are headed. Here he is talking about how people are feeling the pain.
People are seeing their wage increases, their wage increases eaten up by inflation. So if your family is one where you spend most of your paycheck, every paycheck cycle, on gas, food, transportation, clothing, basics of life, and prices go up the way they've been going up, you're in trouble right away. You don't have a cushion, and this is very painful for people at the lower end of the income and wealth spectrum. So that's what we're hearing from people is, it very much that inflation is really hurting.
The same people who caused this problem are the ones who say they're going to get us out of it. By the way, it was the printing the money. It was the Congress spending the money we don't have. It was the government shutting everything down in states and across the country during the pandemic. They always like to say, well, the pandemic caused this, that, and the other. The pandemic didn't cause any of this. Our reaction or overreaction, the response is what caused this. And it was all of these overfed, just gluttonous yahoos that they just lined up at the trough saying, yes, free money for all of us. Let's just line up, free money. And they're still out handing it out. In fact, did you see this story? Whitmer's so proud of it. Her and Mayor Pete are lined up in Detroit. They are lined up getting ready to do some work on a racist highway. Have you seen this? Racist highway in Detroit. There's a stretch of highway that they're going to turn into a boulevard. Because at one point, you can't make this up. Many, many years ago, decades, in fact, they had cut down part of a Detroit neighborhood to make this highway happen. And so now they believe, I guess, in 2022, they can make it happen for a neighborhood that's no longer there. I mean, there really aren't hardly very many neighborhoods left in Detroit altogether anyway. They're going to dismantle a 1 mile long, depressed, they call it, the U.S. News and World Report, depressed freeway built in Detroit by demolishing black neighborhoods 60 years ago. 60 years ago. It's all part of 375. If you've driven down through downtown Detroit, chances are you've driven on this highway before. But it was a racist highway because of what they did 60 years ago. Now, can you imagine? It's $104.6 million. Mayor Pete handed that out downtown Detroit, along with the Wolverine Queen, Gretchen Whitmer. So you wonder why the cost of gas, groceries, and everything else is through the roof? You wonder why we're paying what we're paying at the pump? You wonder why everyone is feeling the squeeze, as they put it just the other day, the squeeze on CNBC? Well, it's the government put us in this position to begin with, and now they're here telling us, oh, we'll get you out. We'll fix the problem that we solved. Look, folks, I love my country, but I do not trust my government. I don't know about you.
Here in Washington, D.C., the famous half-smoked sizzle at Ben's Chili Bowl, a pillar of the community.
I feel like we're biting our way right into history.
But now owner Virginia Ali and her son Nizam say times are tough.
Inflation and the pandemic is literally devastating for us.
Ben's raised the price of their half-smoke by 70 cents a couple months ago to help set food costs. Virginia Ali tells me it wasn't an easy decision.
We can't make it if we don't make a little bit of money on it.
The chili cheese fries went up 80 cents. That's because the price of a 30-pound case of potato fries doubled since the pandemic. And cream, milk, cookies raised the price of the banana pudding.
Never give up. I've been here 64 years. I'm going to be here to stay.
In Chicago, there's the Wiener Circle.
Margins are already thin running a restaurant. How thin are they now?
Thinner.
It's a hot dog stand serving street food.
We're here to go.
Owned in part by Tim Wan.
How have you guys seen inflation affecting you all here?
You know, we've seen it across the board.
Wan says inflation affected the addition they put on the back of their restaurant. Construction costs went up.
We haven't raised prices in about a year, but it's something that we're always evaluating.
Why not just raise the prices for hot dogs?
You know, a bunch of reasons, one of which obviously, you know, consumers don't have an appetite to spend.
Wan says trying to be more efficient with staffing, production, and waste.
We're trying to be, you know, as dynamic and reactive as we can.
It is crazy. And of course, it is happening all across the country, even at Juan's Wiener stand. You're feeling it. They're feeling the pain, folks. And, you know, it's interesting to watch these news stories. These news stories are done in such a way as if you wouldn't understand. I mean, you have such a bigger, better handle on this because you're feeling it and seeing it in your budget every single month. $500 a month. $500 a month is what you're having to pay more every single month. And that they run these stories like, you know, they have a handle on it. They're late to the game. We'll watch the Fed. It'll cause more problems. And yet, the reporting I heard, even on this station this morning, a report from, I don't know, CBS or Fox or somebody said, they're being very careful. They're taking aggressive action. The Fed being very careful not to cause a recession. We are already in a recession. That's a different word for the thing they might cause. It's a fact. The old definition. We're just going to let that fly. The old definition. This administration has changed words. They changed language all of the time to suit their own whims, their political fancies. We're not going to let them get away with it. Nope. We'll jump on the phone and grab your phone calls coming up in just a moment. You can join the fun too. And hit that talkback button, the iHeartRadio app, right next to the play button. Looks like a microphone. Sound off, rant, rave, talk about anything you want to talk about, maybe even ask a question. You know, we've heard a lot about changing definitions these days, and of course, changing what is good for you and what isn't good for you. You know, masculinity is a toxic thing these days. We hear a lot about all of that, but do we ever hear about the real truth of how you need to stay healthy and checking your testosterone levels? No, we never hear about these things. And it can affect so much more than just your physical health, your mental health as well, how you show up in the world. Man, if you've got weight gain or muscle loss, maybe you're experiencing fatigue, you're tired all the time, you're irritable, you get the anxiety, depression, all those different things that can pile up. It may be your testosterone levels. The folks at Mentality would love to get you checked and give you their solution. They have FDA-approved testosterone treatments, board-certified physicians who will work with most insurance companies. What's Mentality, you ask? It's simple. A local healthcare facility specifically dedicated to helping men just like you look, feel better, be at their very best. If you're a father, you're a husband, you show up at work the way you show up on a daily basis, it makes a difference. Get tested and find out if they can help you today. checkout mentality today at Low T USA. Go to lowtusa.com. That's low, the letter T, USA.com, lowtusa.com. And when you do, tell them thank you for supporting this program because it really does make a difference.
Your news from a trusted source. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barclay on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Sky high and
All right, we've got guests joining us momentarily, folks. Stand by, stand by. I have to check on that. Looks like we may have gotten some wires crossed. Uh-oh. I just noticed my text message mentioned something that's happening tomorrow, and our guest may have thought I meant coming on tomorrow. My bad. Let me say good morning and hi to all the folks. We'll get that ironed out and get it fixed here. But let me say, folks, good morning to people that are watching on behind-the-scenes live stream. If you're just tuning in, we do two different shows here daily, but you get the behind-the-scenes live stream. You see in the radio show, which is live on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM, right? West Michigan, we're in Grand Rapids. It's 2 hours. It's the fastest hour in radio. And then I give you the after show, which is the show after the show, which starts about immediately after the show, which is why we come up with the cute and unique name for it, right? Good morning, Laura Lee. Good morning, Keith. Good morning, Matt. Appreciate y'all being here with us this morning. Steve and Jessica, Bruce, Sandy, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a minute. Let's see. Over on the Rumble. Rumble. Duga, good to see you. Good to see you. Nancy, Gritter Dunn, Lady Blah Blah, Vicky, Social Distortion, Roxanne, Benjamin Martin, the folks on Getter, Josh, Reagan, Tanya, Alex, Jackie, Belent, Miles, Adiv. Good morning, folks. Appreciate y'all being here with us. Having an issue with my headphone monitor today. I have to keep an eye on that. Stand by here, folks. Back on the air. Not so fast. Not so fast. It's not quite the end of the world, though it feels like it. Boy, I got some really interesting news coming up today. We'll get into that in the after show. Somebody sent this to me. In fact, it was my pastor. And it has to do with some of the folks are keeping an eye on all the things that are happening in the Middle East. You're not hearing a lot about them these days. The UN meeting right now. What is happening there? We'll keep an eye on that all coming up. Hit that talkback button. Thanks to the folks at MKD Funeral Homes. You can sound off the iHeartRadio app. We were just talking about changing language all the time and the definitions of things.
Hey, Justin, you left one out. They changed genders.
Yeah, very good point. They're always changing things. Folks on the left in this administration anyway. Rewriting history, language, biology. Well, here's the fact, folks. We won't let them get away with it. We're going to hold their feet to the fire. You can join the program at any time, too. Let's jump on the phone. You can join the program at 616-774-2424 is the number. 616-774-2424. Julie's on the line. I want to talk about what's happening in schools and parents. Good morning, Julie. How are you?
Good morning. Good. I'm doing good. How about you?
Wonderful. Thank you for the heads up today. What's the latest?
Well, I got email. Some parents in Grand Haven have gotten an email about their kids being allowed to go to this Calling All Colors group during their Connections class. The Connections class is what it's called in the middle school, academy, and the high school, but we all know it as homeroom. It's like your study hour. So these kids are allowed to go to a Calling All Colors group, and Calling All Colors is a student-led club that really it's kind of like a CRT club, to put it in the simplest terms.
Oh boy,
people will understand. So that's and I guess this ties in directly with these videos that have come out recently from the Michigan Department of Education, the training videos.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one theme I haven't heard talked about recently. There's a lot about the pronoun stuff and a lot about keeping secret gender transition from parents. But one of the things that they do is they hide student participation in the Gay Straight Alliance clubs from the parents. And our group Restore Ottawa created out of that training, out of those 12 hours of training video from the Michigan Department of Education, we have like a 3-minute video that focuses on the Gay Straight Alliance clubs and how this Michigan Department of Education is recommending hiding student participation in these clubs from parents.
Julie, can you hang on the phone? I want to talk to you more about that. We got to take a quick break to catch our news here, but I want to take, because parents, I don't think understand half the things that are happening behind the scenes in their schools. Some of them have been paying attention, and they are in touch with this, and they're stepping up and fighting back. We've seen that with Tudor Dixon the other day as she was flanked by, 40, 50 parents there in Lansing and the Michigan Department of Education making that statement that the superintendent should step down. And, of course, calling on Gretchen Whitmer to come out and comment on this. Gretchen is hiding like Biden in that basement. So she just refuses to comment on this stuff. But these things are happening underneath our noses. I think parents want to know about what's happening. Hang on. We'll give you a chance to tell us a little bit more about what you're seeing in Grand Haven. Grab your phone calls too, folks. Lots to cover today. We're doing our best to get to it all. All right. Hang on 1 second. It looks like our guest, we'll probably have that guest on tomorrow. Get the guest on tomorrow. I think that's what happened. That's okay. Good guest either way. Big story. I'll just put that on the back burner, save it for tomorrow. And we'll do that. Christina Karama, who I'm talking about. And the story I may even touch on here a little bit later. It's a really interesting. There's just so much. I always say it's like drinking from a fire hose, but it's true. There's just so much going on. Michigan Secretary of State broke the law by outsourcing voter roll cleanup to the left-wing group. I think it's a George Soros group. A Soros-backed group. Some election integrity, election security news that we've got coming out today as well. So hang on. Let's see if I can pull some of this for you. Yeah, lawsuit filed in federal court against dishonest Michigan SOS. Benson claims she broke the law when she outsourced voter roll cleanup to radical leftist third-party group. Today, grassroots organization Pure Integrity Michigan Elections filed a lawsuit against Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson for violating the Federal Help America Vote Act. She contracted with Election Registration Information Center, ERIC, under the auspices of cleaning up Michigan's voter rolls. Secretary of State, as Michigan's chief election officer, she oversees the Bureau of Elections, which will now consider the alleged breach of federal law from an optimist perspective, the Bureau of Elections now has the opportunity to right a major wrong and set the boss back on track. Do you think that'll happen? Not holding my breath. Yes, Eric is the Soros group, Judy said. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more. If you haven't heard that story, it's over on the Gateway Pundit this morning, and I'll, of course, put links to all of this in our stack if you want to check that out. I've got a couple of election integrity pieces this morning. So we got to that bit of a runner report, the latest on the border situation, terrorists caught at the border as Biden's left the door wide open. Biden family worked to sell American gas to China. So we're talking about the gas situation, the strategic reserves. I think it was our strategic reserve that he wanted to sell. We'll get into those Trump court cases and a big runner report court case you're going to want to hear about coming out of Louisiana. Attorney Jeff Childers has the latest on that. Have you seen the Chinese battery plant story out of Big Rapids? It's got a lot of folks talking. We'll get into that too. So, like I said, never a dull moment here. Never a dull moment. Yeah. Always something. It's always something. Why did Cruz and Kennedy go along with a journalist bill the Dems put out for censorship? Shelly, I haven't seen that yet. Send it over to me and I'll take a look. I will take a look. All right. Mm-hmm. Some good stuff going on today over on Locals as well. If you haven't joined Locals yet, it's free to join. JustinBarclay.com/locals. At the live stream posted up as we speak. And let's see. Let me just make sure. That doesn't need to be pinned anymore, does it? Yeah. That's from a couple of days ago. And there it is. That's the one we want. I'm going to pin it and open the chat up. Start chat. Boom. All right. We get the chat going. So if you want to send me something, a message, I try to see everything that comes up on the screen here, but sometimes I just can't. So if you want to send me a note and you are a supporter over on Locals, you'll be able to do that. Send it in the chat. It's at the top of the live stream. Biden-flation, gas prices jump again. You'll be able to get to me from there. And something new that we're starting. I'm just trying to get the format right on it. Yeah, I'm just not sure how to do this, though. Let's see, save draft. Yeah. I've got something new I'm trying to do on Locals where I will put up my show prep for the day ahead of the time so that you can see what we're looking at before the show starts, and you can even add to it. So look for that soon. We're going to be posting that up. I just got to get the format right on that. Hang on. You can join the program and sound off at any time. Love to have you on. By the way, you want to text me? Send me a message. You can at 616 636-1676. Love to hear from you there. Joining us on the program, Julie was talking just a moment ago in Grand Haven, some of the things that they're experiencing, seeing, and parents are standing up all over the state, along with Tudor Dixon, to talk about how our kids are being exploited in many different ways, and what's happening in the schools. Parents need to know about this stuff. You just talked about a little bit about what you're seeing happening in the schools, some of the really divisive things that are being taught. I think parents just want the schools to get back to basics. Let's teach reading, writing, arithmetic. Let's teach how to think, not what to think. These are very basic things. We've gone so far away from it. Test scores even show how bad the state has gotten. And parents are fed up. A lot of folks are paying attention. There are some parents that may have a sense that something's going on, but they can't quite put their finger on it. You're kind of ringing the alarm for them.
Yeah, so one thing we were talking about the participation in the gay straight alliance clubs and the Calling All Colors clubs. And one thing that parents, a lot of people don't realize is that the participation in the club is not really just about supporting LGBTQ students. The participation, what it comes down to, is really about teaching gender ideology, which is much different than supporting a student that's going through some kind of, questioning about themselves. So gender ideology, what they're doing is they're teaching that if you are an LGBTQ student or a person, you've been somehow oppressed by straight people. That's what gender ideology teaches, in the same way that critical race theory would teach that somebody that is a person of color is oppressed by somebody that is white. They go hand in hand. So when we talk about hiding participation in the GSA, the same way it's being hidden in Calling All Colors. So parents, what they really should be doing is asking questions to schools, their principals. Ask, do you notify parents if kids participate in these clubs during school hours? Things like that.
So how do the parents even, because this is one of the things I think is the most scary, and she brought it up the other day. How do parents know when kids are constantly being told, we don't have to tell your parents, we're going to hide things from your parents. They're being encouraged to hide things from their parents. You can't share this with your mom and dad because, your mom and dad are racist. And they won't understand this. And quite frankly, they come home and it creates all this conflict in the home and already at a very vulnerable time for these kids. A lot of them in middle school and high school, et cetera. And you just have this really tough situation. Parents are coming, they're coming in contact with their kids. It's like, this is a new kid. I don't recognize this kid.
I think that's really the idea. I think you hit the nail on the head there, because it's natural for kids when they're teenagers to want to assert their independence. They want to become adults. It's a transition phase. They are not yet adults. That's the problem. They're naturally pushing away from their parents and turning towards the outside world. And the schools are exploiting that by telling them that their parents can't be trusted.
So what's the solution? How do parents get down to the bottom of this, and how do we fight back? Because I know folks are really curious on how to get into this.
Well, there's lots of things people can do. They can ask questions if they're a parent. If you're not a parent, you still need to get involved. You can go to the school board meeting. You can vote for your figure out who your school board candidates are and vote for them. Talk to other parents, grandparents, citizens in your community about what's going on. These issues need to be known because they affect not just parents and not just kids. They affect the whole community. Everybody goes through the school system. The people that work at Meyer, the people that are your doctors, the people that are your insurance agents, everybody went through the public school system. So what happens in the public school affects everyone, not just parents of kids who are there.
Julie, thanks for keeping up the fight. Thank you for everything you do, and of course, for keeping us posted on what's going on. Will you come back and tell us more about this in the future?
Anytime. I keep calling. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate you and everything you do too.
Much appreciated. You got it. Folks are fighting. They're standing up. They're not going to take it. And look, I think this is great news in a lot of ways. There's a lot of bad things going on. We got to know what the truth is about what we're seeing and what's going on. We need to know the truth. But at the same time, we can fight back. And I'm encouraged to see folks doing that. People like Julie, people like many other. Well, Tudor Dixon running for governor. You got Gretchen Whitmer, who's running from the cameras. She doesn't want to answer these questions. And the reporters, these so-called journalists, they don't really seem like they want to ask her the questions. She's hiding like Biden in the basement, just like it's one after sort of stark contrast. Speaking of which, Mark is on the phone with us this morning. Mark, you've got a good question. I think it kind of relates. Good morning. How are you, Mark?
I'm real good. How about you, man?
Wonderful.
So on your station yesterday, on my way home from work, I got some poll numbers, and middle-aged men were one way, and younger men were another way. I haven't been called. Have you been called?
No. You know, they are trying to text me from time to time, but I barely answer phone calls or texts for people I know. So they got a hard time getting through, right?
But both ends of the deal were that Whitmer was up front.
Yeah.
How can that be?
Well, I will tell you a couple of things. This is a great question because you're saying, and they just had the poll again. This was a new poll from Epic MRA. It shows Whitmer's out front 16 points or something like that, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was some crazy number. We're not that dumb.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, there is something, it's not a new phenomenon, but it's something the Trafalgar folks are calling. They got a new term for it. In 2016, there was a term. 2020, they got a term. Now today, I think they're calling them like hidden voters. And now they're like, I can't remember exactly what he called them. Robert Cahaley is the guy with Trafalgar. Look this up. But after Biden's speech, where he basically came out and said, if you're a freedom-loving American, then you're a threat to democracy. Anybody who voted for Trump, so half of the country, he says, is a threat to democracy. After that happened, it made people kind of burrow further underground when it comes to these sorts of calls. Like you said, you haven't gotten a call, but let me ask you this. Mark, if you got a call, would you tell them? Would you be completely honest with them? Because I know a lot of folks don't want to share that information with people.
Heck yes, I would.
You would.
Tell them I don't like her.
See, there's a lot of people out there, and a large number that these are the people you're not going to see yard signs in their yard. You're not going to see. They're not going to answer a poll if you call. There's a large number of people who are just fed up with all of it. And this is the theory from Robert Cahaley at the Trafalgar, which is the folks that have gotten a lot of the polling correct. They tend to be a more conservative organization. But he says that people just don't want to answer because of the environment Biden has created. Do you ever trust any of these polls, any of this stuff that they're trying to push on? You ever trust any of it, that any of it's accurate?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't either. Now,
I just thought I'd voice my opinion about it. I think it's all crap.
Now, I appreciate it, Mark. Thank you for calling. I think there's a lot of people feel the same way. Now, there are people that wonder, hey, I'm seeing all these commercials. One of the things is right now, I've seen all these commercials for Whitmer. When are they going to start airing these commercials for Tudor Dixon? Well, there are a couple of things that are happening. Whitmer's got a war chest of money. They're sitting on it. And I don't think Dixon has started airing too many. There might be some PACs running some commercials for her or against Whitmer. But it really hasn't started heating up to the point that I think we're going to start to see more of those as we get close. We got about 6 weeks now. It's going to have to start soon. In the meantime, they're going around and they're making a splash when they hold press conferences like the other day, Michigan Department of Education. That was a big one. Make sure you're wondering, like, what can I do? How can I help get the word out? Make sure you share that stuff when you see it online. If you go to her Facebook page and like her Facebook page, follow her on Twitter, and you're going to have to actually go search it out because Facebook and Twitter, the rest of them, they've already started their censorship, and they don't want to push that stuff out any more than they already do. So make sure you get that done because I know the battle is just heating up. Fair points. Speaking of battles, Trump legal battles, this is a really interesting. I don't know if you've been following the latest with the special master. We got news on that yesterday. And, of course, New York Attorney General Letitia James suing Trump and the Trump family. Coffee and COVID's Jeff Childers. He's an attorney. One of the most interesting things he does is right from that perspective of someone who knows the law. And he's got some, I think, thoughts on this that you might want to hear as well. Coming up, we'll get into that. A jam-packed after show today. The Chinese battery parts maker bringing, they say, 2,000 jobs to Big Rapids. But how much of our Michigan taxpayer dollars did Whitmer spend to make that happen? It is an incredible story. Small business owners shut out, closed down during the peak of the lockdowns. And she's busy handing out money to China. We'll get into that. The latest on the Secretary of State broke the law, according to a new lawsuit, and more. It's all on the way. Don't go anywhere. West Michigan Live continues right after this. So I think Mark had a great point. How many of you, the John James ad is great, isn't it? Matter of fact, we'll play that a little bit later on. That's a good one. How many of you would answer a poll? If you're watching behind the scenes here, the live stream, how many of you would answer a poll? I'm just curious. Okay. I just was able to do so. I think for supporters, if you're on locals, let me know. I got the chat live there. Ooh, Nick sent me a good one. Nick, I saw you on camera, man, dropping off a notice to the Forest Hills Public Schools. I will have to preview this link, especially if you say if somebody's actually reading the book. I don't know if I can play it on the radio. That's how bad this stuff is. But thank you for the link. I'll take this and use it for later. That's how bad it is. I said the other day, the reporter was all, "Can you give me an example of what porn is?" when she was asking Tudor Dixon this. I thought to myself, this stuff is so bad, I couldn't read it on the radio. And I think the point is that most of these parents have is like, you can't read it on the radio. The school boards certainly don't want you to read it in person, but the stuff is in classrooms. The filth is in classrooms for kids. Thank you, Nick. By the way, the chat is up too. If you want to send me something that you want me to see immediately in the VIP chat over on Locals, justinbarclay.com/locals, if you're a supporter there. And then take a look and see if you can see my show prep for today. Show prep. It'll say show prep 9/22/22. Stand by, folks. Back on the air. Want to thank our sponsors and, of course, folks powering this next segment, making things happen. Thanks to everybody that you hear make this program possible on a daily basis. Folks, if you could tell them thank you, give them a call and say, I appreciate your support making this program. This is how we stay on the air. Say thanks to the folks at ProTech Heating and Cooling. Time to get that furnace checked. Yes, I know the weather is getting cooler. Now, I haven't cracked mine on yet. But time to get that furnace check Visit protectgr.com or call 616-453-5000 for the folks I trust. That's ProTech Heating and Cooling, Patriots, taking care of things. And somebody that just mentioned, we're talking about these TV ads, and one of the things they were asking about is when are we going to see some of these from some of the candidates, like, particularly somebody like Tudor Dixon. See a lot of anti-Dixon. So one of the things that I'll point out is that every time they run one of those negative ads, yes, it's a negative ad. They're building negative images. You want to see her fighting back in the ads. Well, they've got so much money right now to spend, the Democrats in Whitmer, and illegally, I might add. It's illegal how much they actually have because they broke the law in getting there. So you will see, I'm sure, more coming up in the future. But in the meantime, the first one's been released, the first ad for John Gibbs, anyway, here in West Michigan. He's the one who defeated freshman Congressman Peter Meijer, who voted to impeach Donald Trump. Running as a Republican, he will face off against his opponent, and I believe we'll be seeing some debate soon. But they've got to agree. We want an actual debate. Folks want to hear these people talk, whether it's John or his opponent, who apparently looks like she doesn't want to answer any real tough questions. She wants to pretend like she's a Republican and she's a radical Democrat, somebody who's worked as an immigration attorney, who's been helping people get across the border and get here and stay here illegally. She probably doesn't want to answer any tough questions about that. Here's a little bit of that new TV ad. It features John and his mom, and I think it's really cute. Listen to what they had to say in this ad, by the way. John Gibbs.
I told my mom we were making a commercial, and she insisted on joining.
My son is too humble. John is a hard worker, first in the family to attend college, Stanford and Harvard.
That's true.
A successful businessman, but most importantly, he's an honest man. I know my son will finally bring common sense to Washington.
Sorry, Mom. I've got to do this part. I'm John Gibbs, and I approve this message.
Me too.
I absolutely love it. Well, I love John. I think there are a lot of folks that say, man, John, I would vote for you if I could, and that aren't necessarily in the district. But the other thing is, I'll tell you, John's mom is something else. She really is. And I had a chance to meet her and get to know her, and spend some time with her a couple of times. And you can see why he's such the extraordinary young man that he is. But, it really is, I know that it's going to be a good ad, I think. I think that's going to be a really good ad and a memorable ad. So you'll start seeing and hearing that everywhere. We got to get the vote out for some of these folks, people. We've got to get it done. We're looking at all of it because I'm telling you to make sure that we can win this time around. As fed up as people are, nobody can sit home. Nobody can sit home. In fact, here's another look at some of the shenanigans happening behind the scenes. The complaint: Michigan's Secretary of State broke the law by outsourcing voter roll cleanup to left-wing group. This out of the Federalist. Thomas More Society filing a complaint with Michigan's Bureau of Elections against Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson for violating federal law in contracting with the Electronic Registration Information Center. That's ERIC for short. The complaint filed on behalf of Pure Integrity Michigan Elections argues that Benson violated the Help America Vote Act by giving ERIC access to Michigan's qualified voter file, a secure voter list used by the Bureau of Elections and more than 1,500 election clerks. HAVA requires each Secretary of State to maintain and clean voter rolls without outside assistance. And we've heard about some of this with the Public Interest Legal Foundation folks as well. I think they might be involved in this as well. Under the Help Americans Vote Act, maintaining state voter registration is seen as such a core governmental purpose that Congress deemed it that it cannot be delegated to any other organizations. Well, she's handed it right off to these ERIC folks who have some really interesting roots. The Help America Vote Act requires the Michigan Secretary of State fulfill her constitutional duty and maintain the qualified voter file by herself. I mean, there are dead people on this file. The thing needs to be cleaned up You need to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And yet she's handed it off. As previously reported, ERIC is an interstate voter roll management system run by Democrat operatives. According to the Federalist here, it was sold to states as an easy solution to clean their voter rolls, but what it does is it inflates them instead. Some would say this is how the fraud takes place. These qualified voter rolls. It's a really interesting scheme, and I don't have time to get into all of it. But in other words, in order to inject fraudulent votes, ballots, etc., into the system, you need to know who's on the qualified voter file, who the voters are, whether or not they're likely to vote if they ever do vote, or even if they're dead. And that's what ERIC does, is it integrates in that way that they can have all sorts of different information. And of course, they're tasked with cleaning it. So you've sent the fox in to clean up the hen house, so to speak. You've sent the fox in to clean up the hen house. That's where we are. Another day, another story. Folks in Big Rapids, we're going to be talking more about this, I'm sure, up in the Mecosta County area to the north of us here. A Chinese electric vehicle battery company planning a development there with money from the state of Michigan. Gretchen Whitmer throwing your tax dollars towards the Chinese. Folks are wondering whether or not this plant should even be there in the first place. Is it safe? You know, these batteries. Have you ever seen a battery, a fire from one of these, lithium to these batteries? There are people that are raising the question whether or not this makes sense. And then I think one of the other issues is once you get the folks, the Chinese, involved and embedded in these small towns, rural areas, what starts to happen is they get their tentacles in, and then at some point it's nearly impossible to unplug them because these areas get dependent. They get dependent on these Chinese plants. You know how important the sheriff is in your area. Think about what happens in a situation like this. Those folks can be infiltrated. Former Congressman and Ambassador Pete Hoekstra talked a little bit about China, that threat over the last couple of days. We had that conversation on air, but we also talked a little bit more about that Ottawa County Patriots meeting. And as soon as that link becomes available to the video from Tuesday night, you're definitely going to want to hear it. Folks, we got a jam-packed after show, lots to get to. We'll talk to you as well as we kick things off. Back tomorrow morning to kick off the weekend here. God willing, we start at 9:06. Make it a great day. God bless. Okay. Got to move some things around here just to be sure. Okay. I'm going to do this. Bum, bum, bum. Click a couple of buttons here, folks, and we will be live on the radio. Stand by. Nick says, I can see the show prep. Thank you, my friend. Looks like our VIP chat is working. It's paying off. Oh, my goodness. The worst part about this book, Nick says, it wasn't just in the classroom in the library. It was read to students by the teacher. Oh, thank you for the story about the media cartel bill. Steve, I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for sending that over. Hang on. Let me pull it over here so I've got it. So if you're watching a behind-the-scenes live stream here, basically what we do is we start the after show. It's a podcast that I see you get to be with me through it all. We'll take your comments, talk about things. And it streams Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Getter, also on my my website, justinbarclay.com. And then we put it up on the iHeartRadio app. So you can get the podcast wherever podcasts are to be gotten. All right, stand by, folks. Ooh, let me make sure I put this up here too. John Gibbs. All right. Here we go. Welcome into the after show, folks. It's the show after the show. That's why we call it the after show. Yes. Never a dull moment. It's the fastest hour in radio, and it just flew by. That's how we started the after show for you, because, folks, they demanded it. We need more. We need more of the after show. So we're giving you more. Imagine that. Giving the people what they want. So let me start up front today, because we got a full list. We got the legal battles with Trump. We got other legal battles. The Rona report you're going to want to hear. It's a victory in the fight for against the mandating of the jabs. It's a big Biden loss. We'll talk about that coming up in just a moment. But first, I wanted to give John a chance to make it on, because you hubbed for so long, John. I appreciate you holding on the line with us this morning. How are you?
Oh, thank you very much, Justin. You and I talked last week, and you mentioned me on the air concerning my first point, and I'll give you the short version. And I don't usually talk this fast, but I want to see if I can get this in. Everybody surmised what the Mar-a-Lago papers were, and you put some great words together when you made my point. So I want to move on to the second point, which I think your listeners and you and everybody has to find interesting. How is it that all the media, TV, radio, whatever, has called this January 6th riots, insurrection, whatever, but it's never been called what it actually was, and I believe, as a revolution? And if 500 or maybe even less Patriots had gotten into the Capitol, we would be seeing a turnover. And that's why these Patriots risked their own safety and freedom. And that's what I believe we actually were witnessing. What do you think about that?
I think it's kind of an interesting point. I will say that I think that the truth about January 6th is that they didn't really want the Trump and the rest of the folks didn't really want this to happen. What happened on January 6th, because the plan was actually in place to have a 10-day kind of investigatory cooling off period that would take a look at all of these issues. Remember, let's go back to that point. There were fair questions people had about what happened with the vote. And the vote stopped in the middle of the night. All these votes were just found for Biden out of nowhere. And all these questions that were fair, along with the side that, the fact that we now know a judge ruled, the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, here in Michigan, broke the law. We know this now to be true. He said she broke the law when she told local clerks, you don't have to examine these absentee ballot signatures. You don't have to scrutinize them. Just let them fly. Not only that, but without consulting the legislature, without the legislature being involved in many of these different states, these things, the election, the rules, the laws, the way they did things, they operated, they weren't laws. I'll call it lawless more than anything else. But the way they operated, they changed things without making laws, without going through the legislative process. So they were, in fact, done in ways that were unlawful. I'll just call it that. So there were questions. Yeah. And what was supposed to take place then, if you remember, folks like Ted Cruz and a couple of these other folks, they were supposed to go to the floor and call for a 10-day period to investigate all of these issues and make sure we had all our I's dotted and T's crossed. That never happened. That never happened because of the January 6th, because of the fact that these people were let into the building, the Capitol building, by other police officers. They were told to stand down. There weren't any National Guard. And all of that, by the way, the breakdown security and all those barriers began before President Trump ever stopped speaking that day.
Yes, because he recommended reserve force to be on site, and it was turned down by Pelosi.
Right, and I don't know, but did you ever see, John? Did you ever see her called up for the January 6th commission? I'm sure I must have just missed it. They never asked her any questions.
I know. No, and what you're witnessing is exactly what everybody is witnessing. Is nobody's being held accountable. All these things are being exposed, and we're going to see how it all plays out. Hopefully, we'll see a Republican thing happening here in 40 days. But I have to thank you very much. You mentioned you'd send me a mug. I would treasure that. And like I say, we talked last week about the Mar-a-Lago papers, and you mentioned there probably copies, and I have to tell you, I believe that 100%. And so then, other than that, I just wanted to see if you thought that nobody has ever called it a revolution, and I have to believe that's what we were seeing.
I appreciate the call, my friend. Thank you very much, and you make it a great day.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And will you be able to send me a mug?
I will, absolutely. We got your information, correct?
Oh, yeah. I've hooked up with you on email and that kind of thing. And I like to call in again and speak about another point that there's just not enough time. Time is money for you, and
time is of the essence. Hey, hang on one second. I'll just make sure that Joe's got your information so that we can make sure we don't get you that we get you taken care of there. Let's see, that's John. Hey, Joe, can you just make sure we have John's info and email it to me so let me make sure. I think we've got that thing already sent out, but he's talking about the mugs. I'll show you what he's talking about. I promise. So when you make it on the air, a lot of times I want to give these, and sometimes I forget, but give something to you when you make it on. And I got books. Those are good to send out. I can do those too. Got a new one coming up. But these mugs are the newest thing. And I've got some new ones. So, by the way, go on over to the store, grab a mug. If you see anything on the store, get it now. Because I'm going to start revamping some things, and you won't be able to get some of this stuff. It's listed under gear. These mugs, there's a Justin mug. There's a Faith, Family, and Freedom mug. They've got the I Need New Conspiracy Theories, All Mine Have Come True. God Wins, which is popular. And then the Facebook Jail Inmate. This mug is very popular. But I got a couple of very affordable mugs right there too. So I just wanted to make sure you had some on the store. If you wanted to get something, you had the opportunity. That's what he's talking about. By the way, anytime you buy anything on the store, you support one of our sponsors, the folks here that make this show possible. You're helping support what we do. Anytime you click share on some of the stories that we're talking about, you help make it possible what we do. Just go to justinbarclay.com Trump.com/store and you'll make it in. So, Coffee and COVID's Jeff Childers has legal information. I'm going to read for you. He went through the Trump legal stuff. The Letitia James thing is just a farce. That goes nowhere. This whole thing is just ridiculous. The Attorney General of New York, and as she laid out the facts of her case yesterday, it was laughable. On another witch hunt, as Trump calls it, but this is the special master we're going to walk through right now. Childers says, well, I usually hate to say I told you so, but especially hate to say I told you so in this case, even though 10 state attorneys general filed amicus briefs supporting Trump, the 11th Circuit ruled against him yesterday, taking the special master right off the table when it comes to the so-called classified documents. In other words, the FBI now continues its investigation. The special master will not get to review the classified documents. That was fast. There's a lot I could say here, he said. The whole 11th wrote a scathing 29-page order that agreed with the government in every aspect right down the line. Since I practice, he says, in the 11th Circuit, I will be circumspect about saying anything that would be considered critical of the very fine and nonpartisan judges who make up that court. He kind of says with a wink and a nod. Could you imagine? He has to work, he has to practice in that circuit, so he has to be very careful about what he says. But he says, I'm going to cite only one paragraph from the order, a key paragraph that I believe is the linchpin in the 11th reasoning. If you pull this fact out of their order, the whole thing would crumble like an overbaked scone, and this one fact is indisputably true, he said. In a section discussing whether Trump might have a personal interest in the seized documents, the judges wrote, quote, plaintiff suggests that he may have declassified these documents when he was president, but the record contains no evidence that any of these records were declassified, and before the special master, plaintiff resisted providing any evidence that he had declassified any of these documents. Now, just seeing this on the surface, I would say there's probably a reason for that. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure the strategy. It's been suggested that it is strategy. Childers goes on to say, remember, an attorney who practices down there. It's true. All Trump has done so far suggests that he declassified some of the documents. Maybe or maybe not. You never know. And when the special master prompted Trump for an affidavit attesting that he did declassify, Trump's lawyers declined to provide one. So which is it? Who knows? I have a bunch of litigation shorthand for strategy that I refer to with my team. Two of my terms, come to mind in this situation. First, Trump's waffling is what is called an ugly fact, or sometimes a dead baby. That sounds morbid, but it's the dynamic that occurs in any case, he says, where a baby died. That fact that a baby died is a fact that is so ugly, it distorts everything else in the case. It always becomes the beating heart of the lawsuit, he says. In a jury trial, for example, if the plaintiff's baby died, you can bet the plaintiff is going to get some money. I don't care how good the defenses are or even how bad the plaintiff's lawyers is. The jury won't get past that a tiny human with infinite possibilities was snuffed out, he said. It's just so unfair by itself that it practically doesn't even matter what else happened. Sometimes I just call it an ugly fact, he says, which is something that is definitely going to snag a judge's attention, irritate her, and be something the judge just can't get out of her mind. You know, right from the beginning of the case, the ugly fact is going to be somewhere in the final order. Trump's unwillingness, for whatever reason, he says, and he is, Childers is usually pretty pro-Trump, but he says, for whatever reason, to say one way or the other, whether he declassified is an ugly fact. By not saying it, he's kind of saying that he didn't declassify, and worse, he's annoying the judge by refusing to admit that and moving on. At least that's how it looks to the judge. It's just that simple, he says. The second term for my personal lexicon that I think applies here is self-inflicted injury, because Trump could so easily eliminate the ugly fact, but he doesn't seem to want to do that. It is his own fault, or at least his choice. So his own choice to waffle is making his own case a lot more difficult. Now, there may be some strategy behind this that we're just not aware of. Maybe there's a really good reason, but I don't know what it could be. My reading of the applicable law is that Trump needn't do anything at all to declassify a document. In my mind, all he has to do is decide and then act in conformity with that decision. So I won't go further into the details on exactly how he says that happens, but we've gone through that before. The president is in the clear. He didn't break any laws, but let's take it up a notch. Let's see. Okay. I assume Trump's lawyers have a good reason for playing it so coy, but I have no idea what they're thinking, he says. So he says there's probably some strategy here, too. Maybe Trump is worried that if he has to make a list of exactly what he declassified, the FBI could then magically produce some documents not on the list. Or maybe it's that Trump took some actions not in conformity with declassification, like asking the FBI to redact parts of the reports and has to explain those actions. Those issues might be thorns, but they are easier to handle than the entire cactus of doubt that Trump's waffling has produced. But what do I know? He said, I'm just a lawyer, not a, hey, wait a minute. Jeff Childers, Coffee and COVID. Always an interesting guy and always has an interesting take on some of these things. And I thought worth it because of his background. The border continues to be an issue. In fact, we'll talk more about Coffee and COVID's Jeff Childers in a Rotor report coming up in just a little bit. It was a legal win. Shelly, what is with the red string on the wrist on Tucker, Jared, Ivanka, anyone? That's a Kabbalah thing, I think. You'll have to do a little research digging into that if you want to go down another rabbit hole. But I don't know that for a fact. Particularly, I don't know it for Tucker. It seems like that would be the case for Jared and Ivanka, though. While reporters crowded around Biden's open borders airport, 12 suspected terrorists were caught at the actual open border. Texas border agents telling us this is a very dire situation, and the story we hear today confirms that. But even the folks at NBC News will tell you that this is a very dire situation in their reporting. That's at least what the sheriff had to say down at Texas. Think he ought to know a little bit more about it. Here he is.
During our visit, 2 men crossed over and got caught. But that's just a drop in the bucket for officials like Deputy Constable Hal Bowles.
I can't see it getting much worse than what it is right now. We're already in a very dire situation as it is. The all our local law enforcement agencies we don't have the amount of resources that a big city does.
During our visit, 2 men crossed over and got caught.
Dire situation. Oh, and by the way, how many caught at the actual border? And terrorists at that? Federalists reporting. Following reports that Governor Ron DeSantis would be sending a plane full of illegal immigrants to a local airport in Georgetown, Delaware, near the residence of President Joe Biden, reporters and self-proclaimed journalists flocked to the location of the supposed drop-off on Tuesday, waiting with bated breath for an event they could spin to fit their anti-GOP agenda. The only problem for the press, however, was that the plane in question wasn't carrying migrants and didn't even land in Delaware. As reported by left-wing NBC News, by late Tuesday, no plane had arrived in Delaware. Instead, landed in Teterboro with no migrants aboard the plane. Earlier in the day, DeSantis stoked the coals of speculation by declining to confirm or deny whether the plane would even take off. His administration later refused to say if the plane that landed in New Jersey was part of his program to relocate the folks in an intentional effort to keep the issue alive. The NBC reporter claimed, citing an unnamed anonymous source as evidence of its insertions. The media's rush to Georgetown's airport for the non-existent drop-off came after DeSantis transported a plane of 50 illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard, yada, yada, yada. As amazing as it was to watch the media's best and brightest flock to Delaware with such incredible speed, the same can't be said for those same journalists when it came to traveling the U.S.-Mexico border, where Customs and Border Protection just apprehended a dozen people listed on the FBI's terrorist screening database. A dozen people. These are just the ones we know about. These are only the ones we know about. Who else is coming across these borders? It's a national security issue. New data released by Customs and Border Protection this week show that there were 12 individuals encountered by the Border Patrol between ports of entry at the border whose names matched on the terror watch list. Contains information about the identities of those who are known or reasonably suspected of being involved in terrorist activities. August apprehensions bring the total for fiscal year 22 to 78 so far. Terrorists or suspected terrorists. 78 so far, with 2 months still to go on the fiscal year. The Fox report reads, that's triple the prior 5 years combined. There were 2 arrests in 17, 6 in 18, 0 in 19, 3 in 20, and 15 in 21. 78 this year. More than 2 million have been apprehended at the southern border in fiscal year 22 alone. The numbers are staggering. Fox's Bill Malugin doing some really good work there. We'll continue to cover that. Oh, more news about the Biden crime family as gas prices continue to be an issue. Now they're headed back up again. Looks like Biden was selling American gas to China. At least that's according to some lawmakers and whistleblowers. But first, let me tell you about how you can get ready. Folks, we've talked about it over and over again. We don't know what's headed our way as gas goes up. The price of everything continues, inflation. Just buying some food, storable food, could give you a hedge on inflation when the cost of everything goes through the roof and we can barely afford to feed the family. Preparewithjustin.com. No matter what happens, man-made or natural disasters, you'll be prepared. Save $500 on a 1-year food supply. The lowest price of the year. $500 off. And again, it's 2,000 calories a day. It lasts for up to 25 years. Grown, packed right here in the USA. And when you order, they'll ship it fast and free right to you. $500 off. Preparewithjustin.com. The folks at My Patriots Supply. Go to preparewithjustin.com. That's preparewithjustin.com. Go to preparewithjustin.com to get prepared no matter what we face today. The Biden family worked to sell American gas to China, according to a lawmaker and a whistleblower report. And you've heard some of this. But James Comer, a ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, citing documents and information provided by a whistleblower, says Hunter had a Chinese Communist Party member as his assistant while dealing with the Chinese side for the shipping of American natural gas to China in 2017. The Biden family promising business associates that they would reap rewards once Biden became president. Comer said in a letter to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen dated September 20, the president has not only misled the American public about his past foreign business transactions, but he's also failed to disclose that he played a critical role in arranging a business deal to sell natural resources to the Chinese while planning to run for president. Biden was a business partner in the arrangement and had office space to work on the deal on a firm he managed, received millions from the Chinese partners ahead of the anticipated venture. Part of what Comer stated had previously been reported in the news. The letter citing whistleblower testimonies as well as emails, a corporate PowerPoint presentation, screenshot of the encrypted messages and bank documents the committee Republicans obtained provides a more complete picture suggesting Biden's knowledge and involvement in the plan from at least 2017. Now, we know they just got caught trying to sell some of the strategic reserve. This guy's running around scot-free, and the FBI is knocking down the door of Mar-a-Lago to look for some old paperwork. I mean, this stuff it's unthinkable. Unthinkable, some of it. The Manchurian candidate in the White House as we speak. Borders wide open. We are weaker. We are more vulnerable today than ever before. And I guess I don't need to tell you the rest. You know the full story. How about a Rona report and some good news? Let me break it to you from the high priest of health himself, St. Anthony of Wuhan, Mr. Bosta. The latest, and I think good news, another story from the court system. A Louisiana federal court just struck down the so-called Head Start mandate. Remember we asked this the other day because Biden said, yeah, it's a pandemic's over. Oh, the pandemic is over, Jack.
Come on, man.
And then they had to reel him back in fast. Wait a minute. Not so fast. I mean, I know I'm getting ready to retire, but not so fast, old man. They reel him in with that leash. And, patron saint of pandemics, Nicole said. Well, they said, wait a minute. Well, and I brought this up, and many others said, hey, well, if the pandemic's over, why are these people still having to wear masks? These are people that Biden is forcing to wear masks in the Head Start program. Louisiana federal court just struck down the so-called Head Start mandate, which required jabs and mandatory masking of all teachers and staff participating in the federal Head Start program. You know, it's going to be good, he says. Jeff Childress of Coffee and COVID. When the judge starts the order by quoting James Madison, the accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, judiciary in the same hands may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny. The 27-page opinion ends issuing a permanent injunction against the program's vaccine and mask mandates in the 24 plaintiff states. Now, these are only in the plaintiff states, unfortunately. But it is a good coalition of free states at this point. Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, Arkansas. Did I say that? Arkansas, Alaska, that's what I meant. Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Add Texas, you have a pretty good starting list for a free states coalition, he says. This is great news, and congratulations to the attorneys litigating this case. What's frustrating, though, is that the Biden administration surely knew this executive order and many of the others, and the unilateral actions were plainly unconstitutional, but they did it anyway. Well, that's par for the course. They always operate that way. I mean, that's just how they do it. But they did it anyway, said knowing how much time and effort it would take to unwind their illegal actions and how many people would go ahead and just get the jab in the meantime. On the other hand, I did not see any corporate media whining about activist judges and how the decision is going to wind up killing kids. We are way past that point now, he says, which is also good news. Yeah, because remember, this would have been all over it's horrible. This is going to kill kids, but the children, oh my goodness. Ay, 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 ay. Did you see, speaking of Biden, I don't know if you saw this or not, but this is very interesting. at the Queen's funeral, which I saw like whatever was on the screens here when I was in the studio, but that's about all I watched. He was parked all the way in the back. Nobody's talking about this. Now, if it were Trump, it would be on a head. Oh, it'd be the first story on all of the news stations, wouldn't it? Here he is parked all the way in the back at the funeral. Yeah, what happened there? He was seated at the back of the royal funeral, packed in between the Czech Republic's prime minister and the president of Poland. I mean, he was packed all the way. How did they get him all the way back there?
Come on, man.
There's no way to take this, but it's deliberate. Well, listen, do you remember the other day when I told you, you can see the red circle, right? That little red circle back. That's little red circle back there. That's Biden. There he is. You remember the other day, though, when I told you, when things like events like this happen, where there are things that are planned and put together, everything pretty much happens. It's so well coordinated. Pretty much everything happens on purpose and for a reason, right? Do you remember that? Yeah, here's the video from the other day. Trump at the rally in Ohio. We talked about that flag. It was very strange. The blue flag with black stars. What in the world was going on with that? Lots of folks asking questions. Getting the tinfoil hat out just to be sure. But what exactly was the story on it? We heard a lot. We heard a lot about what it could mean, what could possibly be going on. But this is just another case. The Queen and the funeral and Trump with the flag with the black stars. That it's got a. Oh yeah, I've got my tinfoil hat on. I'm ready to go. Get yours at justinbarclay.com. But those things happen for a reason. So it's either like a straight up snub of Biden. They don't like him, or there's more to it. I don't know. Maybe there's more to this whole thing. Speaking of the tinfoil, can I leave the tinfoil hat on for just a little bit? JustinBarclay.com if you want to grab your tinfoil hat. They are available if you go to the store. You click on the store portion, then you'll go down to the bottom here and see the gear. There's a tinfoil hat there. Click on that hat, and you're in. The tinfoil hat. Randy, you want to sell some of these hats for me? Randy was helping me sell my books at Ottawa County Patriots the other night. Heck of a job, too, by the way. He could sell ice to an Eskimo, that Randy. So anyway, a lot of people asking questions about this particularly. What in the world is going on? I got to bring something else up. I know we've talked about this. But have you heard anything about September 24th? It's all over, like TikTok and all those other places. But have you heard anything about that? There's a big September 24th, supposedly a very scary day. It's coming up. 9/24. They expect something. Have you heard about this? I mean, this is another one of those. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't mean to be a conspiracy theorist. It's just weird that well, I think it's a psyop. I think they're trying to get everybody hyped up and excited about something possibly. I don't know if there's any real truth to it happening, but there are a couple of different ideas. Now, have you heard anything, or is there anything that you've considered or thought about that would lead you to believe that something is going to go down? Now, that would make September 24th, I believe, is Saturday, right? Yes, it is Saturday. So I don't know. You tell me. I feel like there's something we're missing. Something we're not getting the full details on. Let's see if we can find that. Maybe I can find there's a video. There's a video guy in Germany, in the parliament in Germany, I guess, talking about September 24th and what could possibly be coming. Frederick Merz is his name, Frederick Merz. And apparently he gave some sort of speech and people are freaked out about that. Have you seen any of this?
Liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen.
I'll bring the volume down here. I'll just read it to you. Dear colleagues,
this 24th of September, 2022, will be a day that remains in our memories, as a day we will say, I remember exactly where I was.
This is all part of a national campaign. If you can't make it out today, again, it's from 10 a.m. to 2 here at the Montbello Rec Center. But if you can't make it out today, there is another event happening on Saturday, September 24th. So 2 opportunities to get these free emergency preparedness bags. That is over at the College View Rec Center, also from 10 a.m. to 2. Now, if you want to be 100% sure you're going to be able to get a bag before they run out, you can also go online to reserve these bags at denver.org/Denver Ready. So really an important effort.
So one of the things that they tried to compare is the guy said something big is going to happen, and then they're in Denver doing some sort of National Preparedness Month thing. I don't know that there's a connection between the two. Anything and everything is so weird nowadays that I just don't. I got to tell you, folks, we got enough weirdness happening. So I mean, I appreciate that people are on the alert. I just don't know, because I have heard people ask me about it and they've said, what do you think is going to happen? I don't. Look, I got my hat on. I'm ready. But I don't know. There's just enough already. Isn't there enough already going on? Terry said something very special coming on November 21st also. I don't know about that. You're going to have to tell me about that one. Money collapse, big cloud in other country, grid down, Janine said. Oh, maybe those are the things that she's hearing. September 24th is the last January 6th Cheney show. Why bug out bags? I heard there is no food in them, Tammy said. Yeah, those don't look very big to be bug out bags, personally, but I don't know. I'm getting some whiskey just in case, Sherry says. I think that's a good plan. Biblically, September 24th is the end of the year, God's calendar, Rosh Hashanah. So the 25th is a new beginning for God, reclaiming the earth, prophetically being spoken, doing research. Now, that is interesting, Pam. That is really interesting. We got a lot of stuff going on. At the same time, we've got it looks like this wild economic collapse that could be happening at any moment. Putin's over there talking about using nuclear weapons. And then I saw this. In fact, my pastor sent me this, and we talked about the red heifers the other day, didn't we? Did we talk about the red heifers on this show? I think maybe we talked about it on Locals. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, goodness. All right. The red heifer. Update. Let's see. Red heifers arrive in Israel. Third temple update. 5 red heifers land in Israel. Bible prophecy is happening as we speak, they're saying.
Sacrificed for the third temple. So this will be a third temple update video, with that being the main key point of the video, but as well as a few articles of other recent things going on leading up to more just building of the third temple. As you'll see, I mean, the Jewish people are doing everything they can to build the third temple. So I'll play that footage here in a second of just as of September 14th, or probably even the 15th at the point the video was recorded, 5 perfect red heifers that meet the requirement for the sacrifice as mentioned in Numbers 19:3 have just made it to Israel from America originally. First, I want to read a description of the red heifer and the sacrifice and what that means, and then I'll play the video. According to rabbinical tradition, there have been 9 red heifers sacrificed since Moses' time. Since the destruction of the Second Temple, no red heifers have been slaughtered. The Rabbi Maimonides around the year 1200 taught that the 10th red heifer would be sacrificed by the Messiah himself. Those who anticipate the construction of a third temple are eager to find a red heifer that meets all the conditions, because the red heifer ashes will be necessary to purify the new temple.
So what the red heifer is it has to be a perfect, it's spotless, and now they're saying they have several of these, but they have to be perfect. Now, can that be achieved through genetic modifications or things like any of the gene editing, any of the things that we have access now to? Or is this all natural?
Many consider that the appearance of a red heifer will herald the construction of the temple and the return of Christ. According to the Temple Institute, a group advocating for the construction of a third temple, a flawless red heifer was born in August 2018 in Israel. According to the futurist timeline of eschatology, there will indeed be a third temple of God in Jerusalem. Jesus prophesied the desecration of a temple during the tribulation, Matthew 24:15 and 2 Thessalonians 2:4. As well in Revelation, there's mention of the exact dimensions of a temple. For that to occur, there will obviously have to be a temple in Jerusalem to desecrate. Assuming that those who dedicate the end times temple follow Jewish law, they will need the ashes of a red heifer mixed with water for the ceremonial cleansing.
Randy says it has to be organic, the organic red heifer. Well, there's a lot to this. Okay, so I'm not an expert here. But that happened just the other day, and then this, because I sent that to my pastor saying, "Oh, look at this." We talked a little bit about that, the end times prophecy and things like that. That's really, it's fascinating stuff. Look, I mean, I'm not going to get. This is the same way I feel about September 24th. The same way I feel about that. I'm not going to get all wrapped up in it, because if I'm doing the right thing and if I put my hope, my faith in God, then I think I know I'm in the right place, and I know that He's on the throne, and either way, I'm very happy. Now, if that red heifer had to be vegan, it'd be a whole nother story, Randy. But this came today. Israel wants 2-state solution to Palestinian conflict. Lapid to tell UN. In his address, Lapid will explain that separating from the Palestinians has to be part of the nation's vision. This would be part of a peace deal. This is from the Jerusalem Post. So this makes things even a little more interesting as things continue to heat up. In his address, Lapid will explain that separating from the Palestinians has to be part of the nation's vision. Now you put that with September 24th. I think that's kind of fascinating itself, that is, the Feast of Trumpets. There are some that ask and are thinking, that we could be heading into some of that nation territory. What date is Feast of Trumpets 2022? It starts September 25th. The 24th is the day before. Oh, it's just a wild time, folks. The Bible gets more true every day, doesn't it? It gets more true every day. You just can't make this stuff up. You just can't. But I felt like, yeah, okay, maybe I share that with you. A little bit of conspiracy talk this morning. I don't know. I got the hat on. I've got it. Hopefully it's not cutting off circulation. It is, it's wild times. It's never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. We'll continue to cover it all for you, no matter what happens. Appreciate you being here with us. Another way you can support us, by the way, if you're looking to do so, make sure you get this show and get more of it. Plus all the exclusives. Almost did one last night. I think I might do a live stream night over on Locals. JustinBarclay.com/locals. It's free to join. You can also support just $7 a month. 2 months free when you get the annual support. People are joining in. You got the exclusive VIP chat in there today. Steve was inside. Nick dropping me some good bombs, some information I needed. Steve, I saw yours. I'm going to take a closer look at that article. We'll dig into that tomorrow probably too. Christina Caramo will join us tomorrow, so she'll be here on the program. Donald Trump Jr. is in Muskegon tomorrow with Tudor Dixon, Matt DiPerno, Christina Caramo, John Gibbs. A few other candidates as they fire things up at that rally. You want to be there? I'll give you the more details about that then as well. In the meantime, wishing you the best, folks. See you over on Locals later tonight. And if you're going to pop in and join us, JustinBarclay.com/locals. Make it a great day, everyone. Talk to you soon. God bless.